Well, it's a big day, really, for labor unions, the Trade Union Congress and the Nigeria Labour Congress. True to their word, the strike begins today, June the 3rd, 2024. I know the president had talked about how in just about 8-9 months of his administration, he had seen 4 strikes. So add this to the list, that's 5 strikes in 12 months. Well, this morning we're getting a status report about just how far-reaching this strike is. We're joined on the program by Comrade Benson Upa, who is the head of Information and Public Affairs, Nigeria Labour Congress. He joins us from the nation's capital, Abuja. Also joining us is a member, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, fellow Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators Managing Consultant, CEO, David Professional Consultants Limited, Dr. Emmanuel Irayanama. He joins us as well from Port Harcourt, the River State capital, this morning. Gentlemen, welcome to the morning brief.
Good morning.
Well, naturally, I'll begin with you, Comrade Upa, and just to get a status update on this strike. We've seen statements from the different organs of NLC and the TUC, from food and beverage to judiciary workers and the rest, ordering the members to begin this strike. But I wonder if you've seen this statement from the police. The Inspector General of Police put out a statement signed and dated June the 3rd, that's today, and it's titled that essentially organized labor should shelve its strike, comply with legal procedures to prevent breakdown of law and order. Comrade Upa, are you aware of this and how do you respond?
Well, I do not know which legal procedure the IT is talking about. Probably it should be reached to explain to us what it means by legal procedure. We're not under any obligation to take permission from the police. The right to peaceful strike or protest is available. It is open. It's available in our constitution. It is available in the corpus of our labor laws. So I do not understand what the IG is talking about.
Right. So let's just do a refreshing as to why this is happening in the first place. There's been a lot of events building up to this moment right here. But just so we don't lose sight of the main issues, Comrade, what are the main issues on the table for labor? We saw that last-minute intervention by the National Assembly. It fell through. So what are the major outstanding issues for labor?
Yeah, the major issues are actually 2. The first is a pronouncement on what the national minimum wage should be, a figure that is at once realistic, reasonable, and equitable. Then, second, a reversal of the hikes in tariff, 250%. These, broadly speaking, are the issues. Coming to the issue of the minimum wage, you will recall we had offered 615,000, backed up with statistical data, with accommodation which we put at 40%, feeding 500 naira per member of the family per meal, which came to 270% in a month. That is no meat, no soup ingredients, nothing, just raw prisoner food. We did all of that, and government made a counter offer of 48,000 without breaking it down, as we did. Government, and we also scaled our offer down. The government came to 60,000, and we said, okay, we must also be reasonable. And we came to 494,000. That is where we stalemated, or that was where we stalemated. Of course, we had explained to government to start this process much earlier. Government, in the MOU we signed on the 2nd of October 2023, had agreed to start this minimum wage process much earlier, but he did not. Had it started, probably there would have been much time to talk about what to do. But even then, it's not about time per se. It is about the commitment of government. There is a commitment deficit. There is a commitment deficit on the side of the government.
Well,
So,
comrade, pardon me to butt in here quickly. I just want to be sure where we're at. So at least we know what the federal government is offering, 60,000 naira. Are you still I'm sorry?
60,000.
Yes, 60. But is Labour still sticking to 400 plus thousand?
Yeah, you see, we are open to reasonable negotiation, but certainly not 60,000.
Okay.
At the moment, government in principle is paying 78,000. So what government is doing is what we call a regressive counter offer.
All right. So, comrade, just a moment. Let's bring in Dr. Irai Nama on this one, Jeffrey.
Doctor, let's bring you in, as my colleague has said, on this particular debate, because where we are right now is grandstanding. Labour is saying we will go on strike, no matter who is saying what. The Attorney General is saying, look, it's illegal, citing different suits that has not been set aside. And the IGP of police is now saying we will follow the law. Labour should reconsider its position, urging everybody to sheath their sword. But it's a grandstanding on our side. But my question is, Labour is coming from a point of need by their calculation. This is what an average family is expected to spend, which is why we're proposing this. But government is coming from a point of availability and sustainability. From your experience, how should this be approached to find a common ground?
First, the truth be told, need without a pocket is actually no need. Any increase whatsoever will be a function of availability ability to. If governments or indeed employers think that they will not be able to, whatever your need is, won't work out. But before anything, we also need to clarify something that is very important, and that's the fact that what we're talking about here is minimum wage and not necessarily salary increase, which the different employers will need to talk about. I'm aware that as of today, even though the minimum wage is 30,000 naira, particularly for the organized private sector, you hardly will find anybody paying anybody 30,000 naira. We must not forget that for you to be paid or employed in the first instance, there must be business. And so any demand within that space should be as much as possible considerate and reality-faced. You may need everything you want. Need is free. Elementary economics tells us that human wants are insatiable. But there is something that blocks, that determines how much that want can be reached or met. And that's your pocket. Labour, for me, at this point, needs to go do some more thinking. I agree that where parties meet like this, part of the beauty of collective bargaining, as it were, is what we're finding, the touch back and front. But in my opinion, strike wouldn't be the best way to go. Our laws are very clear with sanctions when strikes are not done properly. It is a pity that government, as the biggest employer of labor, most times talks from the two sides of our mouth. But all the same, we are here. The parties must be rational.
All right, let's build up on what you just said. Labour sees government as putting up an unreasonably low amount. Government is seeing Labour as putting up an unreasonably high amount. And this has been the back and forth. In fact, one of the Labour statements said that they don't even think that the government is serious enough, because the last meeting they didn't see any governor, no minister apart from the Minister of Labour, State for Labour and all of that. So I want you to speak to this issue of unreasonably high and low issue, because that's where the challenge is.
Yeah, let's even ask ourselves some simple question. One, is government the only employer in this case? The answer is no. The private sector takes almost about between 50 and 70% in the country. I recall that the private sector actually initially offered 48,000 naira and then increased it to 60, and government merely joined them at 60. It's a tripartite meeting. It's not government and labor alone. So we must get certain things clear. You don't go to the market and then tell me all the things you want as a list and say, because I employed you, I must provide them. It doesn't happen anywhere. Anywhere. It doesn't happen. You should also equally say, this is how much I'm bringing to bear. And that's what the private sector will really do. We talk about productivity. Perhaps labor should be innovative to say, in this new agreement, we want to say labor must bring this in to be able to get this. And so where they do not bring this in, they shouldn't get it. Labor should be innovative to add that into that agreement, if that's part of the things they want. And then we'll see how far a country will have. A beautiful country, perhaps.
Well, let's bring in Comrade Upa now to respond to some of the points you have made. Comrade, I'll just give you an overview of some of the things Dr. Iroyanam has said. Well, he essentially says that on the one hand, for you to be employed and to be paid, there needs to be business. So he sort of views this down tooling as inimical to what you're
saying. Something to law. You must also look at the ability to implement that law all through. We need to be careful. And for me, what I keep saying is this. Labor should bring out those simple things and let's tackle them one after the other. You're looking at what politicians are earning. Who can tackle it and raise that as a serious national issue? As against what labor is being paid. Not for necessary increment, but reduction in that aspect. There are certain things that the economy will have. The discussion on pay itself will reduce. They've mentioned housing, they've mentioned food, they've mentioned several things around the economy. How do we jumpstart those areas?
Dr. Iroyanam, Doctor,
yes.
I'm trying to understand your logic. Are you saying that what the ruling class is earning has no bearing on this conversation on minimum wage and on productivity in the economy?
It does.
So if it does, why are you asking that it be tackled independently?
Okay. What I'm saying is this. Labor has complained, which is true, that the so-called political class, while claiming that there is no ways and means of taking care of the increment, as earning X, Y, Z. And he did mention even what councillors are earning, what assembly members are earning, what executive chairman, council chairman, state governors, presidents, and the rest of them are earning. And I'm saying that is a leakage, a serious leakage, ordinarily. And that could be tackled to say, you need to bring this down. Because what is happening in the entire market is the fact that all of us go to the same market. And when we get into the market, because there are a class of persons who have it, they end up distorting the price. So your goods are actually not sold for the real price. And so you that is earning maybe the 30 or the 60,000 that is proposed now may not be able to function in that market properly. Yes, it's a serious issue that should be tackled. Right. Now we can look at that. Because the whole bottom line of wanting extra more money is actually pursuing what could be purchased.
Right. So I see the angles that both gentlemen are approaching this from, but which of them will move the needle the right way is now the big debate now. So let me come to Comrade Upa now, because there are diverse ways people are seeing that this could be approached. One of them is from the doctor who says you could maybe approach these things sort of maybe independently without going this route, basically. But Comrade Upa, speak to us about the game plan of labor now. How long are you willing to go on this strike Because it's also been said that the more the strike continues, take, for example, the national grid, so that means there's no power. For those who are trying to make a living with power, which they don't get as always anyway, but those who are depending on it, obviously they can't do anything. They have to revert full-time to buying petrol. And you know how much petrol is today. We can talk about the food and beverage. We can talk about aviation as well. We understand that there's been move in the aviation sector as a result of that strike. The judiciary is also involved, and the list goes on and on. So how far is Labour willing to go with this strike? Are you planning to go 1 week, 2 weeks, as long as it takes for federal government to come to a reasonable wage?
Well, we made it amply known that it will be an indefinite strike action, and that is because we virtually exhausted every process at an amicable resolution of this imbroglio. But government was contemptuous, or government behaved in a very contemptuous manner to Labour. He completely ignored Labour. In fact, I do remember in your introductory remarks, you did say that you did make the point that government officials are not even there, other than the Minister of Labour. They just say, let the idiots go to hell. What can they do? And they forget entirely that Labour creates wealth. Okay? And all we're asking is treat us decently. Pay workers decently. You know, other than Lagos and perhaps one or two states, the economies of the states are driven by wages. Whenever salary stops, everything else stops. I'm quoting my late friend, Colonel Contagora. So, and you also have to admit that we've got to learn from history. When Obama became president, and the U.S. was in recession, what did he do? He raised wages. He gave money to big business, and that created some synergy.
Right.
And the U.S. economy went into a bullish run all the way to the Trump presidency. So all we're saying is that pay a minimum wage that is reasonable. Well, in fact, I'm not even saying paying a living wage.
So
the president himself, Mr. President himself, when he came in, he promised to pay a living wage.
Right.
We're not asking for a living wage yet. We're asking for a minimum wage.
Right. So, comrade, quickly, because we need to go to the streets now and see just how this strike is holding across board. Is 100,000 naira, is it reasonable?
Well, it is not for me to say, but one thing I can assure you of this, comrade, is that Labour is not fixated on 494. We are ready to negotiate.
Oh, clearly. I think we're all clear on that. We know that 494 is a far cry, but of course it's a negotiation tactic. So we need to know what the goal is. So maybe Nigerians can also help you put pressure on government. Is 100,000 naira the goal? Because I imagine you're trying to carry Nigerians along as well. So 100,000 naira, will that be a fair one?
I cannot say yes or no to you on this platform whether 100,000 naira is fair or whatever.
Right.
I would want you to do the math.
All right.
If you're able to do the math and they add up, fine.
Well,
but then I want to tell you that a bag of rice is 70,000-80,000.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, comrade, it's quite interesting how we're seeing the math play out. We have to anchor, but you can land on your points. Yes, please.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Absolutely, you can land on your point quickly.
I'm saying that government can solve this problem by the endless devaluation of the naira. Government created this problem, okay? Government created this problem. Why for goodness sake would you leave your currency to the storms of the market? And you're an import-dependent country. There is no protection for the naira.
Well,
so now, even for the organized private sector, they are dying. 40% of this business is gone. 30%
Comrade, we have to anchor at this point because of time. And I do hope that all of those points are raised during the negotiations as well. So it's not just a minimum wage negotiation. All of those ideas are brought through. But we have to thank you so much. Obviously, you're not going to work today. So thank you for your time. We've been speaking with Comrade Benson Upa, who's the head Information and Public Affairs Nigeria Labour Congress, joins us via phone from the nation's capital, Abuja, as well as Dr. Emmanuel Royanema, who is a member, a CIPM, a fellow Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, also managing consultant and CEO, Davik Professional Consultants Limited. Thank you so much for your time as well.
Always my pleasure.
So we're still staying in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, where our correspondent Charles Operum joins us right now from the airport in the state. Well, Charles, we understand that aviation workers are also joining this strike action. So is it holding, and how much is it affecting the state in general, Charles? Well, Charles, if you can hear me, we just came off a conversation with NLC, Head of Information and Public Affairs.
Head of Information, Public Affairs.
Right. You can go ahead, Charles.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just go, give us it. Members of ANAP, Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals, they were just about singing their solidarity songs as they announced that they were embarking on an indefinite strike, as announced by, or as directed rather, by the leadership of the NLC and the TUC. In fact, they have moved from here to the toll gates, which leads into the airport, and they've blocked it because ever since they moved, they haven't seen vehicles coming in. Interestingly, passengers are still coming in. They are going inside. But the chairman of ANAP, Emmanuel, told me that there is no checking in and no boarding. So I spoke with him earlier, and this is it.
Charles, basically what we're seeing now is what you spoke to about the association singing a solidarity song and now going to the toll gate to sort of stay there. But you say that passengers are still coming in, so it looks like it's some sort of measured action, still allowing people come in, but not vehicles, so maybe you have to stop at the gate. But speak to us about the general atmosphere in Rivers State, because it's also important to note that it's not just aviation workers that have embarked on the strike as well. We understand the judiciary workers, food and beverage, NUI, that's Electricity Employees Association. So speak to us across board. How is this holding for Rivers State?
Okay. While I was driving to the airport, if you know Port Harcourt, well, you know that the Port Harcourt airport is on the outskirts of the city, right? So, but I had to drive in front of the Federal Secretariat. The gate was closed. You know, I didn't see anybody in front of the Federal Secretariat. And then I drove all the way down here. My colleague is at the State Secretariat. I'm sure more reports will come in from there. But getting to the gate of the airport, there was heavy security presence. I saw Toyota Hilux vehicles, the type that is used by the police, and of course military people. Just outside this shot, you can't see them, but there are men of the Nigerian Air Force, men of the Nigerian police around here trying to make sure that there is no breakdown of law and order. But generally, the atmosphere in Port Harcourt is calm. We haven't seen any massive protests just yet. Probably to happen later this morning, but when I was coming here, everywhere was calm. You know, people were going about their normal businesses, those that have businesses. But of course, those that work in the civil service, whether federal or state, are on strike. The passengers are going in. I spoke with the staff of the airport a couple minutes ago, and he told me that yes, they are allowed to go in because the location of the airport has multiple, multiple routes leading into it through the villages that surround the airport, and so the passengers take advantage of this and get in. But their vehicles cannot get in, so they have to walk. I mean, if you look behind me, we see people walking into the airport, but I am being told that there is no checking in or boarding just yet.
Well, Charles, your report about adequate security is quite reassuring, and we hope that things stay that way at the airport. But in the statement released by Nat'l, notifying that it is embarking on this strike also, the association says that it acknowledges that international flights would have to run, and as a result, international flights, the strike there will not commence until June the 4th, so international flights will be allowed to run. Please confirm to us, Charles, if that is the case from your observations at the airport.
Okay. So the airport I'm standing, the terminal I'm standing in front of is the domestic terminal. The international terminal is like maybe like a 2-minute drive in that direction, and the flights only take off in the night. So as of this moment, I cannot confirm whether or not international flights will go. But yeah, privately, when I was talking with the chairman of the chapter chairman of ANAP, we did not say anything about blocking or ticketing international flights. He was just merely talking about the local flights. So as of this moment, nothing has been said to suggest that international flights will be disrupted. Okay.
All right, Charles, almost thank you for your reporting. Of course, eyes and ears are watching everywhere across the country. But if there's any new development as far as international flights are concerned, please, we'll be glad to know. Our correspondent, Charles Oporum, right there in Port Harcourt, giving us updates as much as possible. We'll touch base with other correspondents around the country. I think let's now go over to Makurdi, the Benue State capital, where our correspondent Pius Angbo is standing by. Pius, we just got to Port Harcourt. Let's find out from you what exactly is going on. What is the feelers you're getting? Are there compliance, and how is it affecting the polity in Makurdi and Benue State in general? Pius?
Thank you very much, I am here at the NLC Secretariat in Makurdi, where the joint action group from TUC and NLC are meeting behind me to review their implementation strategy for the strike called by the national bodies. This morning, going off to drop my children at school, there were very few vehicles, few pupils at the school there. The streets are empty, not as busy as you would want to have a rush hour in the morning experience. I'm yet to go to the secretariat to see if workers are turning up, but the strategy here is that every unit chapter chairman and secretaries would go with their mandate later to enforce anyone who defied the order to go to work and sit at their offices, because they want to have the compliance to this industrial action, which is basically hinged on the fact that the federal government has failed to implement their position on the national minimum wage, where they called for a 600,000 monthly wage bill as minimum wage, but later reduced to 400 and something naira. They talk about how the Nigerian economy is determined by the performance of the dollar against the naira, which is about 1,400 naira to a dollar today. This has affected their income, giving instances that if you're in abroad, you earn $20 per hour. 8 hours give you $160. In 22 days, that gives you $3,520. If you convert that to Nigerian currency in a month, that's about 4.9 million naira. And they are asking for 450,000 thereabouts. So this is the position they are asking government to take a look at. If their spending is determined by the performance of the dollar on the economy, why wouldn't they up so they can have enough purchasing power in the economy? This is the discussion going on. We're waiting for them to hear what they will come up with from.
I can see arithmetic is quite right, and Labour is demanding a big one. But let's see how that plays out. Now, that question I wanted to find out from you. The Attorney General has released a statement yesterday saying this is unacceptable, it's illegal. There's a pendency in terms of an interim injunction. There's also the issue of 15 days notice to the federal government. The police has released a statement through the IGP saying, look, Labour, you need to reconsider your position. The federal government says this is illegal. What are you hearing as to the position of the federal government from members of Labour? Are they even aware or making any statement in that regard as to what could happen if they continue with this strike action?
I can tell you that these guys are resolute on this strike action. They have said that whatever be the case, from today through tomorrow, they'll be enforcing the strike order across offices, meaning that this will put them against state authorities who would want to implement or enforce the court order or interim order. So it's for them a no going back situation, because they want to drive home what affect them primarily, wage in services they have rendered. So it is not, they are not afraid of that, according to what I've just had informal conversation with them, that they are not afraid of any of those others, that they have a mandate from the National Secretariat to implement this, and they will do so. That's why this meeting is called, to have all the chapter heads ready for action when they need to go enforce in their various units, ministries, departments, and agencies.
Pius Angbo from Makurdi, our correspondent there. Thank you so much for your reporting. Well, there's a lot. We're monitoring everywhere across the country. As soon as we get the feelers in any part of the country, we'll bring you up to speed. But for your information, in case you're not aware, the organized labor made up of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have embarked on an indefinite strike action beginning today. The reason is because they see that they do not agree with the position of the federal government in terms of their proposal as to what should be the minimum wage, as well as the refusal to reverse electricity tariff. Those are the bone of contention. Both sides are groundstanding, and our job is to set the agenda for you to be part of the discourse. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue conversation right here. Join us again.